I just think sometimes, if you look at the Hockey Alberta pillars of success and pillars of development, you got your physical and then your life skills, technical, mental. So we've covered off a lot of those. I've tuned into most of these with with Mike and Fran, and doing more of the technical side, Barry on some mental stuff. So I wanted to grab kind of that piece that's on the life skill aspect that sometimes gets missed. And I think it's a very, very important piece of developing players. I'd love to be, and I'm sure we all would love to be the next coach that develops the next, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, Sidney Crosby. Odds are that's not going to happen. We'd love it to, but we are going to be developing, in essence, the next coaches, minor hockey coaches, society, the next, doctors, lawyers, labor workers, city workers. So we have to do a good job of kind of building up those life skills. So I want to dive into that a little bit. And the way I'm going to do that is talk about one aspect in particular, and being a great teammate. This is based off of a book by John Gordon. It's called The Hard Hat. And basically it's a reporter talking to a coach, and the book is kind of the coach's words of the best person he ever coached. And he goes into 21 chapters on kind of why this person was the best he ever coached. And each chapter kind of has a different aspect, and he dives into it, with 10 or 20 pages on that. So I kind of took that and put it into a slide each. So it might, for the context of this, that's kind of where it came from. And I tried to adapt it a little bit and put it into a presentation form. When I read that, and I seen a presentation by Dean Brockman, who's the Swift Current GM and head coach, and he talked about a lot of this stuff. So, and I really found it interesting, as a coach. So I wanted to dive into that a little bit and help my team develop that aspect, as I believe it was a huge thing for those players to know. So when I do this presentation, what it was initially created for was for me as a coach of a U16 AAA team. For my players. So we'll talk a bit about what that looks like when I'm talking to players, but then we'll also touch a bit on what it can mean for you guys as a coach. Because I believe when you're developing things, when you're developing people and players and habits, you can't assume anything. So I think we have to make sure, when you're doing stuff like this, it's people development. And hockey is a great vehicle to develop, obviously, skills and teamwork and stuff. But I don't think hockey alone has to do it. I think you as a coach have to, facilitate that a little bit. And, here's just some things that we're going to go into, as far as what those look like, 21 ways. And Patty's my teammate here with this. So, when I do this, I do a lot of, audience participation. I like that sort of stuff. So if you have a question on a topic that we're going through on a slide, I'm okay with Patty, as I told him, to intervene there. If not, we can go into asking questions after. So this is 21 ways to be a great teammate. It could be, 21 ways to create a captain. If you have these 21 traits, you're probably going to be a leader on your team, and to have, a group of 20 kids that have, anyone could be a captain. That's probably going to be a pretty good team. So we'll dive into that right now. The first thing is, as most coaches can agree with, is just sweat more. If you're a team member, one of the things you control every day is your effort. When you work harder, you're going to sweat more. You're going to bring out the best in yourself and in your team. So as a coach, if you're a competitive player, that's going to help you, right? You're going to get better. You're trying harder, but you're also forcing your teammates to work harder, which is super important, right? So some players are motivated to get better, and some need that push. If you as a player are going to work harder, you're going to, and in turn, make your teammates work harder, which is important. So there's some things I notice in practices. When we're doing a drill and there's one player who's in the drill and next in line is the passer. I see the passer, sometimes it's a little back saucer pass or a light pass. It's not a game-like pass. Well, you're not making yourself any better, and you're not training your teammate to receive that pass as you would in a game. So you're not helping yourself. For coaches, smaller your games. That's really going to help you build the competitiveness, build that tight knit that we're going to have in game scenario. So to do that as a coach, you have to put them in situations to do that and reward things. You know, if you're going to play a small area game and you want it to be a competitive environment, what's on the line, right? Is it, you know, losers got to buy Slurpees, untie skates? What is it? So whatever you can do to bring out that compete level is super important as a coach. And for those players, they just have to know that, you know, you got a 60-minute practice. It's a work day. We're going to work, and that's going to help you get better. So the quicker players realize that, the more important and the quicker they can get better. As a coach as well, you have to work hard too. And players see right through it. If you show up to the rink with no practice plan, and you're trying to wing it together on the ice, you know, players are going to see right through that, and you're not going to help them. And now they're not going to work hard because they're coaches. And so you as the coach is going to set that example for that. Second thing here is just well done instead of well said. You know, we see that all the time. Lots of players can say the right things, but are they actually going to do those? So when you're looking at actions, let's reward those as a coach. What can we do to reward that as a teammate? You notice that block shot, you know, those get almost more cheers sometimes than a goal or a nice assist or save. So those things are important that, you know, you say you want to do them, but also if you're talking about block shots, when you see the guy go up top of the blue line and the old flamingo comes out with the leg lift, players notice that too. So, and usually that's the same guy on the bench, you know, you got to block that shot. But again, actions are definitely more powerful than words. So make sure you guys are going to do the right thing as much as you can. Saying them is one thing, but, you know, they say talk is cheap. So the more you as a teammate can make your actions speak, I think the better off you're going to be, the more respect you're going to get from your players. Same thing as far as a coach and a player, treat people the right way. You know, how would you like to be treated? And, you know, for you to say one thing and then do another, it doesn't work that way. Everyone's going to watch your actions more than listen to you. So, and then as a coach, what can you do to bring this out? I think just rewarding the actions. You know, if you see, you know, lots of coaches have the hard at, which was the name of that book, which ties in nice. What do you give that out for? Is it the kid that scored 3 goals and has all the talent in the world? Or is it, you know, sometimes the player that, you know, really sacrificed himself and earned that respect, blocked those shots, did the little things to gain your teammates' respect, and those things go a long way. So make sure you as a coach, and it could just be when the player gets back to the bench, making sure you heard that and make sure you saw that, and just rewarding that player, because players, once they get that reward, they're going to want to do that again. So choose to be humble and hungry. So no matter what you've accomplished previously, you know, I don't know who's on the line here, but, you know, if, you know, maybe it's minor, midget, AAA, some players drafted, now he's on your team, and now he thinks he can coach through the season, it's probably not going to get any better. I think for players that no matter what they did in the past, they can always improve. They take nothing for granted, earn every shift. There's going to be no shifts off. So, you know, one quote that I always had in if we had a quote of the day or on our board was just, if we had a 5-game winning streak, you know, success isn't owned. It's rented, and you got to pay rent every single day. And you know, so for players to realize that you have to be hungry, you have to never be satisfied. Once the quicker players can learn that, you know, the quicker they can get better, and again, not dwell on maybe that last shift that was great or not great. And then the humble aspect, this one I think is super important, especially in society these days with how players are and kids are. I think we have to really instill that mentality of, I get to work out today. I don't have to work out. I think once we can start getting that into the vocabulary of players, we get to skate today. We get to work on our skills. We get to do this, man. And it's not always the fun stuff, but you as a coach, you know, you're going to set them up for success, and whatever you're going to put forward is for the best. So to have them understand, I get to do this. I don't have to, I get to. I think that's a big difference in just a couple of different words there. I think once players just enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey of getting better, it's going to help them. Be in tune with your development path. Be in tune of practice. You know, what are you actually learning? Understand it. Ask the questions. I think when you understand how you're getting better day in, day out, it's going to become really addictive, and you're going to want to take as much as you can. So as a player, I just want them to be really in tune to what they're doing that day and how they're getting better, and feel that they're getting better. So pursue excellence. I think every day you want to wake up and you want to strive to get better. You know, I always use a clip with the Red Wings head coach, Jeff Blashill. He just says, greatness is a daily choice. Either take a couple steps towards greatness or you don't. So for me, that says a lot. And I think, you know, every single day, I know Hockey Alberta calls them an everydayer. You're going to do the right things every day. I think it's super important for them to understand that as well. I'm a believer, and I think I got this from Fran Gao, who talked last week, is if you look at practice, players either get better in practice or they get worse. So players have to have the mindset of, you know, pursuing excellence every day, even 1% better. Push yourself to do 1% more, you know, 1 second faster if you're doing some kind of speed test or workout or whatever it might be. Or if you're shooting 100 pucks, you know, maybe you're going to try and you can get one more in that top corner. It's going to help you, but you have to have that excellence mindset and really compete with yourself. I think that's super important to want to be excellent, to want to be great. You want to, every time you go on the ice, you want to expect your best. You know, a lot of coaches say, you know, look beside you, look to the guy next to you. He's going to give the best. I think you got to look yourself in the mirror first and then expect the best of your teammates. Because if everyone gives their best, it's going to work out for the team's favor. But I think you got to look yourself in the eye first and make sure that you're going to put the best foot forward and want to be better than you were yesterday. So just positive energy. You know, I heard Dallas Aikens talked last week. I saw about creating culture, and he had something similar to this slide, and I think he used the word contagious as well. And it's maybe not a word we should be using it in the state we're in right now, but I think that it's the best word for it. You know, if we can really have that energy, positive energy, travel through our players, and it's going to be contagious. Everyone's going to have it. I think it's so important. Hockey takes so much energy to do well in, to play the game. So if you're taking, you know, a couple ounces of energy away because of, you know, your attitude or what your buddy next to you is saying, it's really going to hurt your game. You know, everyone, you know, it's the feel good, play good type mentality. So whatever you can do to help your team's energy level go up, I think that's important. So I think as a coach, you need to be positive, upbeat. You know, we see now a lot of coaches are putting the music on in the game, in the practices, trying to get that even for 10 minutes, get that positive energy flowing, and it's going to just enhance the mood of your team. And then, you know, the better mood, typically the better performance. So I think the positive energy is super important for all players to have. You know, it's hard. Being positive is hard, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I think it's something that people need to understand, that you control your attitude and your effort. Your attitude is your choice. Once you understand that, you know, you're the one that gets to pick that every day. So if you're going to bring a bad attitude into the dressing room, you know that's probably going to affect 3 or 4 of your teammates. That's going to hurt their performance. It's going to hurt the whole team. So we really have to be of the mindset that I have to, again, bring my best, pursue excellence, but just the energy level, and then what can you do to enhance that. And not all players are the extrovert where they're jumping up and down and hooting and hollering, but just some kind of positive energy. You know, a smile goes a long way sometimes with the rink, and same with coaches. So if you have that positive energy, it really trickles through real quick, but same thing with the negative side. Next one, this one's tough. You know, don't complain. You know, we're always looking for something to blame, play the blame game on. And, you know, so sometimes you get a bad call, things don't go your way, you hit the post, you know, puck goes in off your shin pads, whatever it is. But that's just what happens. And you really have to act as if it was supposed to happen that way. You know, life is 10% about what happens and 90% how you react. You can turn anything into a positive, but I think just kind of pressing that reset button as soon as you can, and not complain. Because again, if you're complaining, there's that negative energy coming back out, and that's really gonna bring you down. So I think just try and find ways to make it turn a negative into a positive. We had a kind of, I don't know if it's a motto with our team, but just whenever something went wrong, we just talked about good, that's supposed to happen, and it just turned out whenever something negative happened, bad, hit the post, 2-on-1, bad penalty, someone on the bench, and there's always someone different, which I really enjoyed as a coach. Someone just said good, and it's kind of the opposite of what you're probably thinking, but it just kind of had that reset button for our whole team to say, yeah, okay, we can get through this. We've been here before. So just having those little cue words with yourself and with your teams to say, hey, this maybe is going down on a downward spiral, and someone just says something as simple as good, and then we're all back, we're all reset. We all know what that means. So to have something like that, and I can share some videos that I do. When I coach, we do our little pregame meeting, and then like a PP, PK, team meeting, and that to conclude the whole thing, there's some kind of, I don't want to call it a motivational video, but just something. It could just be a highlight package. It could be something from Rocky or some miracle speech, things like that. And that was one of them, was just talking about, adversity, how do you handle it, and really teaching players how to battle through adversity. That's going to help them in hockey and in life. And that's really what this is all about. Next one, just do it for your teammate and not for the applause. Great team members, they put the team first. I think Barry talked about the we over me mentality, and that's important. Depending on what age group you're working with, sometimes easier said than done, right? If we're looking at Bantam and BAM AAA, stats might mean a lot for some players, or if at Adam, right? That's kind of what they get paid the $2 a goal for, so they want to make sure that they get those. But so we're always seeing a lot of the, number three scored, and that's your number, and maybe you didn't. So whenever the ref asks, so I think that's always try and give credit to the team before yourselves. I think that's what makes hockey players great. You look at all the interviews with the pros and whatnot. They're always hey, you scored 3 goals. Yeah, I have great teammates. This guy made a great play. It's rarely about them, right? And a lot of it is cliche. But if you look at some other sports, that's not how they operate. It's, yeah, I scored 40 points. That was all me. And that's not what we want to have in our teammates. You want to make sure that they're deflecting, they're giving their teammates the credit. So, hey, maybe someone hasn't scored in 5 games. Yeah, maybe chisel his number on there so it gets him feeling pretty good, instead of chiseling your own. I coaching a U15 AAA team in Ottawa last year. Typically, I've coached older players, minor midget up to the college. And at that level, I really noticed that it was more about the stats, and not that they were selfish. They just, stats were the number one thing. So I really had to try and hammer home it's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit. And it was nice because we went on a tour of the 67s room, and that's what they had in there on their dressing room wall. A bunch of coaches had different phrases, and that was theirs. And kids look up to that OHL level at that time. So it was really nice to see that they're selling the same message as I was, and easier to buy into. So if you as coaches can try and find NHL or different coaches saying maybe similar things that you're saying, it might resonate with your players a little bit more, and you might gain some respect from your teammates that way as well. Show you are committed. So don't just talk about it. If you want commitment, be committed. So you might be wondering, why is there bacon and eggs on this one? Well, it takes a chicken and it takes a pig to make bacon and eggs, right? So the pig might be a little more committed here, right? And if you want to create a nice breakfast, the pig did a heck of a lot more, or sacrificed a heck of a lot more to make that bacon and eggs. So the chicken, pretty easy job. The pig not so much. So you got to do what is hard sometimes. And the harder you're going to work, the bigger the sacrifice, the greater the reward. I've seen a couple of different dressing rooms and different team gyms. The one I liked was the Anaheim Ducks, just says champions do more. And it's pretty simple, but I think it makes a lot of sense that the more work you're going to put in, the more sacrifice you're going to get, the more you're going to get out of it. So, it goes back to the sweat more as well. If you can put that effort in, and if you're going to be committed to every single thing, not just committed on the things that you like. Some players don't like working out. Some players don't like penalty killing. But if you're going to be committed to the team, you can't just pick and choose which aspects of the team you want to be a part of. So you got to show you're committed and what can you do to do that. Again, you go back to the previous rules, right? Actions are going to speak a lot louder than words. So what can you do as a player to show that you're going to be committed to this team? And we usually go through, if you want to call it a player contract. As a coach, you can create something like this. You can put down your values, your team principles, the habits, whatever you value as a coach and whatever you feel commitment means. Maybe you get a player sign that contract to say, yeah, I'm committed. And, now you have that to fall back on as a coach. Hey, you said you were committed. Here's your signature. You're not following through on this, this, and this. And that's where accountability comes into play. Never take a play off is the next one here. So, be consistent with your attitude, with your effort, with your actions. Focus on becoming your best version of yourself every single day. Be the kind of teammate that everyone knows they can trust and count on. This really goes back to creating habits. Fran talked a lot about the habits on the ice. Never take a play off, or it could be never take a day off as well with this, teammate stuff, or really being a good person. It's the same thing. It's a habit of being the everydayer. It's the habit of doing everything right. First you make your habits. You're going to list off what you want to be, but then your habits are going to make you. You're going to become what your habits are. So if you got great habits, that's probably going to help you, going upward trend. But if you have a lot of maybe negative habits or ones that aren't helping you, skipping out on the workouts, whatever it might be, I think that's probably going to hinder your performance. So never taking a play off is so important. As a coach, how does a player know what the habits are that you want? So again, where is this posted? We need to know as players what you want from them as a coach. So you have to post that. You have to make sure that there's reasons for them to do that as well. So, but again, it's all about habits, and again, you have to force those and make sure that it's every day, right? Greatness is a daily choice, so you can't take anything for granted. You can't take any plays off. So accountability, hold yourself and your team accountable. This is a tough thing to do, a tough thing to expect. Especially younger players. You talk about creating a leadership group, and if you watch the Western League or the NHL, the captains, they hold their players accountable. Sometimes that's hard to do at the younger levels because that's your buddy. You're telling them it's wrong, and it's a hard thing to do. So what does it mean to hold someone accountable? I think you as a coach have to outline that, and you as a coach have to start being the person to know that. Before you can hold them accountable, coaches have to teach what's right, what's wrong. What are the habits you want? You have to teach the expectations, list off what those are. What are they accountable to? What's the penalty? You have to make sure as a coach that they understand what you're holding them accountable to, what you're asking of them. You can't just go in there day one and, little Johnny takes what you would call a bad penalty, but you haven't told little Johnny what a bad penalty is. It's tough to hold them accountable if they don't know what the expectations are. So you got to make sure that you put in what you value and you outline that with your players. And then once you start doing that with the accountability aspect, players will catch on. And then once your players are holding each other accountable and themselves accountable, then you're going to have probably a successful team or at least a great culture, which is super important. So first thing you have to do is hold yourself accountable as a player. Again, if I'm looking at this presentation to players, hold yourself accountable, and then you got to expect that from yourself before you can expect that of the rest of your team. So, and if you hold yourself accountable, then no one else should have to do that for you. So, again, look at yourself in the mirror, and make sure that you're going to hold yourself to whatever standard is set. So again, the excellence of your culture, that's going to be by your coach. You guys have to set that. What is your culture? If you're going to let things slide, like, your culture is probably going to be a little bit loose, and then this is going to be tough to do. It's tough to hold someone accountable and then not hold the next guy accountable. So I think it has to be very, very consistent, and early and often. Once players understand what the expectations are, and understand what accountability means, then I think you can really start to create your culture. But I think it's really tough at the PB level, even at the bantam level, to just expect your captains to be the ones to hold your room accountable. And we can talk about captains as we go throughout, but I think it's a lot for a 12-year-old player to what does a captain mean? And accountability is probably one of them. But it's a lot as a coach to say, okay, you're a 12-year-old captain, you got to hold the rest of your teammates accountable. That's a lot to ask. So I think maybe as a coach, you have to do a lot more teaching with that leadership group, if that's what you expect of them, and outline that for them. So, we talk about respect. Treat everyone with the same amount of respect, and you got to expect others to do the same. Respect is earned. We've talked about that. You got to earn it. But I also believe that, once you're on that team, once you put on that jersey, respect is given to you, right? You've earned the right to be on this team. So you have to start at a certain level of respect. That level can diminish, but I think you have to start with respect. I think it's super important. You continue to earn it. You can lose it. So step one is, give that respect for what it's worth. And then you have to, again, continue to earn it every single day. And it's really easy to lose it. And it might be tougher to earn that respect back. So I think it's important to believe that. And, you don't have to be best friends with every single person on your team, but you have to have that respect factor. You got to respect your teammates, your coaches, the refs, the opponents. And again, these are life skills, but we can't just assume that people understand what that means. So we have to, sometimes there's going to have to be some accountability to this. Hey, that wasn't respectful. And if you let it slide, you as a coach, you as a teammate, if you see something done wrong or with a lack of respect and you let that slide, to me, that stands that you believe in what he just did. And that if that's disrespect, obviously that's a tough culture to be a part of. So, and then when you respect everyone should respect you. So very important aspect. Should be a lot of simple things that we already know. But again, my message here is just don't assume, and make sure you're going to do what you can to teach any valuable lessons and take those lessons that you can give and put them forward. So give all, take nothing. So this goes back to the energy aspect. Be an energy fountain, not an energy sucker. Don't take energy away from someone who's riding a high. There's a positive going on in their game or their day. Don't take that away from them. If anything, keep pumping them up so they have that positive atmosphere around them. Make your team better by giving the best within you to bring out the best in the team. And this could be on the bench, right? Great shift. Give the guy a little high five when he comes off the ice. In practice, hey, that was a good shot or a good save to the goalie. We watch practices sometimes if NHLs are on TV, if we get lucky enough to watch, a Western League practice and there's a nice play. Guys are hooting and hollering. They're having fun. So be someone who gives the energy. Don't be someone that pulls it away. Someone might talk about, oh, that was a nice pass. And then the guy sitting beside him, it was okay. Pump players up. Don't take things away from them. It's really easy to deflate a bench that way. And I think once you're riding those high and once you get on that negative train, it's tough to turn it around. So I think just keep pumping up some. If you're having a good game, let a guy know. Keep pumping him up. Keep that energy flowing. Communicate. This one seems simple, but I think as time goes on, as we're working with kids these days, communication just goes out the window. Kids don't talk anymore, especially on the ice. They'll have their group chats. They'll be texting all the time. But as far as actually in-person talking, you don't see it a lot. And if you're not communicating, it's hard to build trust that way. So we really have to, as coaches, find ways to do team builders that involve communication. As players, communicate, find ways to do it. And with me, and in my experience with my U16 team in Red Deer, we had kids from Red Deer, Blackfall, Sylvan. So you're going to have those little cliques that develop, and you want to avoid that as much as possible. So, maybe you have kids sit beside different players every day. Just try and avoid that little group setting. Again, you can have those outside of the rink where, I'm buddies with this person and that person, more so outside the rink. But at the rink, try and find ways to communicate. It will translate on the ice. Once you guys are talking a lot as players in the room, in the gym, different things, it's really going to go to the ice, which is super important. And I feel it's just lacking so much in hockey, in the youth hockey these days. And that makes the game easier. You're probably going to have more success. So again, encourage your players to have one-on-one conversations, and yourself as a coach, have those one-on-ones, talk to players, just skating around the rink, getting to their practice early, getting in the line, and just, again, could be a couple different words, but just get to know that player, communicate with them a little bit. And communication is not just talking, right? Communication involves listening as well. If somebody approaches you and maybe gives you some feedback, hear them out. Let them take that. You guys having that, it could, I wouldn't say a heated conversation, but having a conversation that involves feedback and positive criticism, that's going to build trust. And we really need to build trust to be a good teammate. So yes, we need to have our players talk more, but have them listen more as well. It just ties right to communication is connect. Don't just communicate, right? That's one thing, talking about hockey. That's just one thing, and helping your game. But, find out different things about, each other's teammates, ask how the family's doing, find out different interests. A connected team becomes a stronger family. And this is one thing as a coach, I think is maybe the most important of the 21 that you can do to connect to players. Working with, the University of Lethbridge when they had hockey a couple of years ago. There's a coach that was with Team Alberta as well, Spiros Anastas, and he was the head coach, first-time head coach, and he was really, great coach, great X's and O's. His first year, he probably found out the harder way that, he didn't connect as well as he probably should have. And then the following years, he really got a lot better at that. And there's a simple example was just, he's from Toronto, one of our defensemen from Toronto, and they just connected by talking about the Blue Jays, and it really connected them. And then that player bought into what he was selling. That player sold it to the rest of the team, and now you kind of have that person in the room that's going to help you. So those tiny little things, just finding similarities. It could be baseball, it could be any little thing. Who's your favorite team? That's really going to connect your team and connect your hockey family a lot tighter. And that's just super important when you're trying to build something. And then, Spiros has told that story a few times, that you just got to find those little things with every player. Some players need more, and some just, need a high at the rink. Sometimes you as a coach, you go straight to your coach's room, or maybe you're not even in the dressing room. You don't even say hi to the players. These days they take offense to that. So we have to really try and connect with your players, even if it's a small amount. This one, become a come with me teammate. These guys or girls, they're probably your captains. If you have this one trait, if it's high on your list, you can really pull a team along in the right direction. When you're with your team, identify, as a player, identify who would benefit from your leadership, from your help, from your encouragement, and invite them to do something with you. So that could be something, see someone who's maybe not having the best day possible. How can you brighten that day up? Maybe you see someone that maybe hangs out with the wrong crowd. How can you maybe pull them away from that and bring them into what your situation, what might be more down the correct path, or maybe more positive, helpful for his career, whatever it might be, and just help them. Maybe a tough family situation. What can you do to just help that teammate have a better day? Great way to show the teammates that you care and you want to be a positive person in your life, and just be a great friend. That's on the personal side. On the development side, maybe you're going to the gym as the teammate. Maybe call up 5 guys. Hey, I'm going to the gym. You want to come? Okay, I'm going to come pick you up. Just different things like that. Some guys need a bit more of a push than others. So I think having guys like that who are hey, come with me. We're going to help you do this, help you do that. I'm going out for practice early. Let's go work on whatever it might be. I saw you were trying to do this in the game. You missed a couple. Let's go do it. Give them a little push to get better. And then once that culture, everyone wants to get better, it's going to really help. Practice selfless compassion. You can't be a great teammate if you're selfish. Love it. Great teammates are selfless. They'll do whatever it takes for the team. And if you're on a 2-on-1 and you're a shooter, shooters are going to shoot. That's okay. Sometimes it's okay to be selfish in a sense. But if it's always that, it's really going to tear apart your culture. If you're a guy, hey, I can't play with him. I I need to play on this line. People see that right away, and you're going to lose that respect. So the more focused you are on others, and think about how they can serve others, those are the type of people you want to be around. And just having that selflessness is a great attribute of a teammate, of a person, to really build that other person up. I think it's super important to have. These sound a lot like common sense, but how do we explain this to our team, our players, that this actually makes a difference? You being selfish every day hurts our team. We can't have that. The selfish penalty, whatever the situation might be, the more those happen, the less respect that player is going to get. And then you hear it on the bench, and then you get the negativity. So having that selflessness is so important. This one, just show you care. As a coach, we could talk about it. Players don't care how much you know until you know how much they care. So same thing as the connect aspect. You have to build that relationship. Great teammates care more about effort, more about performance. They care about how they're impacting the team, and they care about all their teammates. So that's important. I think when you show you care, they'll care about you. And again, it's just, we try and create that family aspect. One guy that works for Hockey Alberta, I think he does a great job. He's coached for 20 years. Mike Applegate. This is kind of his foundational thing he bases his team off of. We're going to be a family. We're going to show each other we care. And he does a great job of kind of highlighting those things throughout the season, and I guess rewarding those, but more so just highlighting, hey, I noticed this. This is important. And to build that family aspect is really going to help your performance on the ice. You always hear the most connected teams, or the best teams. So whatever you can do to help inspire that in your teams is super important, and just care about them, care about the success of them, care about them as people, care about their future. I think that's really going to help, be a great teammate. Be a loyal friend. Don't let your buddy do something that you wouldn't do. That goes back to the come with me teammate. For us in minor hockey, if you're in the hotels, if you're on the bench, if you're in the dressing room, you got to say, you got to hold some guys accountable to say, hey, don't do that, or hey, let's go do this instead. You got to have each other's backs. Barry, I think he might have told the story maybe not on the call he did here, but they have the motto of I got your six, which means I got your back. So you want to have your buddy's back all the time. And if you know he's doing something he probably shouldn't be doing, he might get in trouble. You as a teammate have to be that loyal friend and maybe steer them down a different path. And that's just, again, really important to be. You don't have to be everyone's best friend, but even if it's a little, one little sentence that you can say to someone to, again, maybe have them stop doing that. That is something that you want to have as a leader on your team to, hold guys accountable. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but just a couple of words to steer them on the right way and maybe have them stop doing something that they shouldn't be doing. I think it's important. I'm getting down to it here in the last couple. Love your team. Again, talk about the show you care. Many average players want their teammates to love them. You can become a great teammate by loving your team in spirit and your action. You want to have pride for that logo. You want to be proud that you're on whatever team it is, and don't take that for granted. And every day, we can't. Oh, we got to do this again. Again, go back to the humble mentality of I get to be on this team. It's a privilege. It's an honor. And your leadership group, all of your players should understand that the logo, what that means. So the association that you're with has to do a good job of creating that culture that you earned a right to be on this team. And you got to take pride in that. But going, maybe one step further, love your team, love your teammates. The anti-bullying aspect, again, coaching with younger kids, it shouldn't need to be said. It shouldn't need to be addressed, but it happens more than we want to admit. So you got to educate your players on, what's right, what's wrong, what does bullying mean? Again, there's got to be some accountability measures into there. But as players, be inclusive, have the ability to put the popularity contest aside. And when something has to be said, be the person to stand up for your teammate, stand up for what's right. If someone's getting picked on for whatever reason, it's easy to think and not say something, but a great teammate will actually be the person to stand up. Hey, I got your back. I got your six. I'm gonna whether it be talking to your own teammates about that or talking to other people, wherever you are. You gotta love your teammates and love your team. So whatever you can do as a teammate to have your brother's back or sister's back, it goes a long way, and you're going to gain so much respect from your peers, but also from that teammate that you stood up for. Sacrifice. So this kind of goes back to the commitment, the selflessness, but you have to be willing. This is one thing that you have to sell to your players, that you have to be willing to give up, some of yourself for the greater good of the team. You got to do things the hard way on a regular basis. It's not easy. Usually it's stuff that you don't want to do. It's stuff that might take away from your individual stats, but it's for the greater good of the team. In the photo here, Josh Donaldson, when he was with the Blue Jays, he could hit 45 home runs. He probably didn't want to bunt and sacrifice himself to get someone moving forward. But that's what his coach wanted him to do, and B, that's what his team needed. So he put his, we'll say, ego aside, bunt one, and the team's better off for it. So if you look at different things on the ice that could compare, if you're talking a power play, you got the net front guy. Everyone wants to be the half wall guy, but the net front guy, his job's pretty important. He might just be the guy screening the goalie. Doesn't get the one-timers and whatnot that get all the glory. But without you there, the one-timer probably doesn't go in because the goalie can see that. And so you have a job to do, and it's important. Or, if you're talking off the rush, middle lane drive guy, without him, it all falls apart. It's the hardest thing to do. You're probably not going to get rewarded for it, in goals or assists. Your team might score. But again, it's just doing things that are hard on a regular basis and have that be a habit. If you do what's easy, the path to success will be hard. But if you do what's hard, the path to success will be easy. So that's just something, again, those are things I put up in my lineup sheets or whatever it is to show our teammates that, yeah, this stuff does matter. And sacrifice is super important. And there's so many examples of things that you could do, or examples of players that what they do with the net front or the middle drive. But as coaches, when that play happens, and maybe there's a goal scored, maybe there's not, but like, hey, that goal doesn't happen unless you're in front of the net. Great job. You doesn't get an assist, doesn't get a goal, but that little pat on the back, maybe that's enough for him to say, okay, I'll do that again. So I think make sure you're going to reward the sacrifices that your players make, because especially at the younger levels, everyone wants to score. No one wants to do the things that don't get the little things that don't get rewarded as much. So make sure that you are going to, in some way, reward those little plays. Last thing is just, leave the place better than you found it. And I don't just mean by picking up your garbage in the dressing room after. Have the mindset that every person you meet, you want to somehow positively impact their life and have them become a better person because they met you, or have them have some kind of memory of you that is going to stick with them, that's really going to make them a better person, have a positive day, whatever it might be. Any person that you interact with should have a better day because you were in it. The organization you represent. So for me, my new job, general manager of hockey ops for the Calgary Northstars, we have 250 players. It's super important that those 250 players understand that they're leaving a legacy and they're helping build our legacy as an association or organization. So we need them to help our reputation, because if they're maybe going down the wrong path or doing things the wrong way, or maybe have just terrible habits on the ice, they represent us. So we want to make sure, and players want them to have the mindset of, I got to make the North Stars proud of what we're doing. Have yourself has to get better. So that goes back to I want to get better every day, 1% better. Leave yourself better than you found it, better than you found yourself, maybe the year, maybe the month, every practice, whatever you can do to keep moving forward is important. And then just, a legacy piece. What do you want to be remembered for, in your hockey career as a person? And that's just, make an effort to understand where you sit, how you're viewed in the public eye as players. So, and then same for coaches. You have to ask yourself ahead of every season, what do you want your legacy to be? If this is your last year of coaching, or if you ran into these players, 10 years down the road, what they say about you, would they want to come have a conversation? But how do you want to be remembered for? And then, this last thing on this topic is, Todd McClellan spoke at a coach conference Hockey Alberta did a couple years ago. And he just said, anybody he meets, he treats it as a job interview. And that's not that you're trying to get the next job every single day, but I think it's important that, be aware of what you're saying, who you're talking to. You might be talking to some CEO and you don't even know it, but you're acting like a dummy, probably not going to reflect well in 5 years' time when you try and apply for a job there. So just kind of have that mindset as players and as coaches. So with that, Patty, I think that's, again, 21 ways that we can go through. I will make sure you guys get this. And there are some videos I can send as well. I didn't want to include them just based on sometimes it's tough with Zoom to do that. So I'll get you a bunch of a folder Patty can share, and then we can hit some questions. But just want to thank Patty. I know he's put in a lot of work with this, and we've seen the NHL Coaches Conference and different places putting on the webinar stuff. I always take advantage of it. So I think Patty was a big part of Hockey Alberta putting it on. And I know when I log in, there's 100 coaches or more every time. So that's a great reach for Hockey Alberta and for Patty and the development team. So great job by them to put that forward. Again, it's super important to be a lifelong learner. So I'm glad that people are taking the time to learn. So Patty, with that, I'll take any questions or we can get out of here.
Yeah, buddy. Well, thanks again for everything. I really appreciate it. Awesome presentation. I do have one question. This was sent to me before. I'll get to that in a second, but I had one that you sparked in my mind. As I know, we have a bunch of coaches on tonight, obviously, and it goes back to the accountability. And I was going to just ask your opinion. If we're going to ask our players to be accountable, I guess what I was looking for you is, if that's our ask as coaches, what type of pressure do we have to put on ourselves as the coach to start that accountability anyway? So, if you're the coach, I'll give you an example. You're the coach, you expect your team to show up early, and you're the guy that rolls in 5 minutes before practice and doesn't have a plan. What do you think that does to your team?
Yeah, I think, you hear a lot of, well, if you're on the bench as a coach and you're yelling and screaming, kicking garbage cans, yelling at the ref, soon enough, your players are going to be doing the exact same thing. So, you're a reflection of your team. If you're not going to be, I think these 21 ways to be a good teammate, you could say it's 21 ways to be a great coach as well. So I think all these things have to go into that. So, and it's tough to hold someone accountable as a teammate or as a coach if you're not doing them yourself. If you're the first one, sweat more. If you're not showing up with a plan or anything like that, you're automatically letting the player off because they know you're not working hard. Why would they? So that's why I think it's important that you don't show up to the rink with your practice plan on a cocktail napkin. You post it in the room, whatever you can do to show that you're putting in the best effort. If you're extra video sessions, whatever you can do to show that, hey, I'm working to help you. I think the more you do that, the more they'll want to play for you and work for you.
Beauty. The first one, I'll go. There is one in the question thing. I'll get to it in a second. But this was the one that came in before the presentation. It was from Kevin, and he was wondering, how do you handle selecting your captains? And then there's a second part to that as well. So for the players who are not selected as captains, how do you teach those players to be leaders on the team, to support each other, but also the captains, even though they're not wearing a letter?
Yeah, I think a lot of different ways for, coaches pick captains. Some do the player vote. Depending on what age group that might work. And in all honesty, even to back it up a little bit, do you need a captain? At Adam level, what does that mean? If you're a captain on a team, does it mean you're the best player? Can you hold people accountable? Probably not. Can you go talk to the ref? I think, well, Patty, you coach me to AAA, so those kids are 15 to 18. How many times have you asked the player to go ask the ref something and they come back and, oh, I don't know what he said? So what is their role? And I think you can, again, so you find out what their role is, and then if it's the best player, okay, you can make a judgment call on that. But for me, the way I did it was, what did I want? I looked at my team identity. So for me, you want a hardest working team, whatever your line items are. So I wanted the hardest working guy to be the captain, or the guy that's going to buy in on my team. And when I had that U16 team in Red Deer, that's what I did. He was a great player, but I knew he was a great person, and I knew he was going to work harder than anybody, and he was just a warrior. So for me, that's what I valued. So I wanted him to be that reflection of our team, and whatever he did, he wore the letter. Everyone had to follow. So there are other guys that might have been, if the players voted, which I did take into consideration. I didn't want to go totally off the board, but I think you have to go off of yourself. But if the player you name the captain, and this is at the higher level, doesn't have the respect of the room, it's going to be tough for the players to respect you as a coach. So it's a fine balancing act of who's leading the group of guys, and what's your team identity, what do you want to be. So I like to have who's the leader of the defense. So they're wearing a letter, whatever that is. Who's going to keep the room light. I think that's important. And then a couple guys that are just who's going to go through a wall for you as a coach.
Beauty.
And then sorry,
next one.
More on the captaincy side. Again, what do you expect from that captain? Just because you give the kid a letter, and I made this mistake, with whatever 14-year-old kids that, yeah, hey, you're the captain, and I did the same process, but they were a little bit younger, and again, they have a tough time holding people accountable. So if they went and ran their team warm up and 4 guys are jacking around, the captain and leadership group has a tough time of holding those guys accountable. And then to go back to your question there is try and include more guys in the leadership group. You might have 3 or 4 captains, but you might have a leadership group of 6 or 8, and that can change the outside guys. So if you have coaches meeting with your captains, maybe bring in a few more guys, get a feel for the room. So I think it's important to give everyone a voice, but you really have to be careful of who's selling your message.
Beauty. All right, give you a chance to get a little drink there.
Mm-hmm.
Next one, this one's from Devin, and it's sitting in the chat there if you need to read it as well. And I hope I get this one right, Devin. I think he's meaning, so having a hard hat at younger level teams, losing its meaningfulness as coaches. I think what he's getting at is maybe the post game, award we give out to players sometimes. What would be a good idea as coaches to use? Is there anything else we can use to recognize players at a younger age in a meaningful way? Maybe not just one item for one player per game type deal.
Yeah. So I think feedback on the bench or in practice is the number one way. Don't be so worried as a coach of who's out next and whatnot. Worry about, giving feedback right then and there. Hey, great shift. Love this. I saw this. So you can be giving feedback, and if you want to call it praise or criticism, whatever it might be, as soon as possible. For me, with if you want to call it the hard hat, I always did 2. And in the years I've coached, we had one that the players gave out, and then the one that the coaching staff gave out. So I think that way you can appease the players by, hey, this guy got 3 goals, good job, or goalie got a shutout, great job. But so you got that, and then for me it was this guy bought into our identity, this guy was coachable, this guy killed penalty, whatever it might be. So that's the way I handled it. Was I always had 2 things going on, but I can't stress the feedback aspect enough.
Beauty. All right, this one's from Eric. So it's on the accountability piece as well. So what are some forms of, say, discipline that you have found to be effective? Or is this something your team provide the input into? And he's looking for more in the Adam to Pee Wee age groups.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think in there it talked about, is it Coach Jesse's decision or is it the players? And I think you have to have the players' input on that. And at the Adam level, I think you have to have the parents understand as well, like, why is little Johnny sitting? So I think players know what coaches like. So again, you're going to get all the right answers. But I think if you just come out with a sheet and just say bad penalty, sit for 2 minutes, or miss a shift, and there's no talk there or there's no understanding of that, that's when you maybe get into some issues on the buy-in. But if you sit down with your players and say, okay, what are we going to reward? What's a good, what's going to get a pat on the back, and then maybe what's going to get a kick in the rear. I think having those things listed, and then, okay, so we all agree we don't want to take bad penalties. Okay, so what's the consequence? And then, okay, it's whatever, miss a shift. Okay, now what's a bad penalty? Because I think that has to be defined as well. Because little Johnny might not think that the cross check to the face was a bad penalty. So we have to make sure they understand what they're being accountable to. So I think those things are important as well. And then long shifts. That one was for me the toughest one to break. And ice time's a tough one. But that's kind of the only thing you control as a coach really is ice time. So I would never sit a kid for a period, but for Adam Pee Wee, understand that. Today I met with a coach and he did, okay, every bad penalty we took as a team. So penalties are 2 minutes long. We took 8 penalties. Okay, now we're going to skate for 16 minutes in the next practice. So that's one way to do it. I wouldn't waste practice time on that, but maybe run 16 stairs or do 16 push-ups, things like that. But I think the key there is, you have to build it with your team. and the team has to understand what they're accountable to, and what the reasoning is.
Beauty. All right, I got one more here, and then I'll check the chat as well. This one's from Fred. Any strategies that you may have for helping younger players understand what sweat more or putting in their best effort means after it's been explained in many different ways, but they don't seem to fully grasp that concept?
Yeah, that's a great question. I asked the same question this year to one of my coach mentors and a guy that works for Hockey Alberta, Barry Midori. And the one thing that he told me, and it worked like a charm actually. So funny that question comes up. So we just played a small area game, and so say it goes on for 10 seconds, whistle goes, okay, we can work hard. But then let that game go on for maybe a minute next time that those guys are in there, and see how hard they can work, see how much success they have. And, they're bag tired, so they can't work hard. And then they understand. So for me, that was, guys were kind of floating around the ice, waiting for the opportunity to score, but they weren't working hard for the full 45 seconds so they could take a minute and a half shift. So for me, we had to say, hey, this doesn't work that way. So you have the small area game that really showcases that if you're working hard, you shouldn't be on the ice for more than 40 seconds. Other thing I did, you see the jersey behind me, obviously. He's one of the hardest working guys in the NHL and arguably still one of the best. So if you watch him practice, I think that's one thing I've done is I show practices of guys that work hard. And if Sidney Crosby could do it, I think anybody can. And don't take it for granted. You watch that Connor McDavid documentary, how he got back from rehab. That wasn't easy, but so I think showing examples of that, and then just giving players reward. Hey, that's how you work. And then maybe you reward them with another shift. Hey, you worked hard. We'll give you one more back. Or hey, you worked hard this game. Power play's coming up. Get out there. Different things like that. So, but have them understand what working hard looks like first and feels like, which is like that smaller game. And then, just doing smaller games in general is going to make guys work hard. Beauty.
Well, if anybody else has any other questions, just trying to see here. Doesn't look like I don't have anything in the question and answer. I'm wondering. I think that looks good. Maybe I'll give us, about 30 more seconds to a minute here just to toss anything else that you guys want. As a reminder, I've been recording this presentation. I will put it to our marketing communication group. They'll get it up on our YouTube channel at some point in time in the near future. And then other than that, an email will come out more than likely tomorrow from Zoom. But we put a note in there that all the attendees, so all you coaches who have attended tonight, will get credit, some professional development credits on your Hockey Canada, registration going forward. So that's something else we're putting towards, just as another thank you to you guys for supporting us and supporting Hockey Alberta and people like Jesse and all our presenters. So besides that, my friend, Jesse, it's been a pleasure. Everybody else, thank you so much. Tomorrow night is Jason Wewad with Tyler Smith, and it's being more versus doing more, mental health in building a mental health framework in players. So it should be another good one. And beyond that, I think we're going to plan on 1 to 2 more, get us to the end of June, and then we'll get ready for the season. So I appreciate your time, Jesse, and everybody else who was on here. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much.